Story Bugs.
Hello and welcome to Story Time. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to read another chapter in our book Bambi, and it's broken into different parts. We're going to read chapter 2 today. And this book was adapted from the film by Joan Ryder, illustrated by David Pacheco and Jesse Clay, and published by Disney Press. Now, the first chapter we read was about Bambi being born in the forest, and all the little critters came to see him. So now let's see what happens. I'll show you the picture first. Chapter 2. Bambi soon discovered that the forest was a wonderful place to explore. Each day, his mother took him to new places in the woods. He tried to keep up with her, but it was so easy to fall behind. Bambi was curious about everything, and everyone was curious about him. "Good morning," called Mother Quail, leading a long line of children behind her. Mother Quail and her babies ran around Bambi. There were so many of them that it was hard for Bambi to know whom to look at first. "Good morning, Bambi. Good morning, young prince," the quail chirped in their high, squeaky voices. Then they ran off, following their mother. One little quail came back to take another peek at Bambi. "Goodbye," she called, then rushed away shyly. Wherever Bambi went, animals greeted him from trees, bushes, and all sorts of places. "Good morning, young prince," called a voice. Bambi looked around to see who was speaking, but he didn't see anyone. Then he looked up. Someone was hanging upside down from the branch. Bambi turned his head upside down to see her better. It was Mother Possum and her 3 babies, hanging by their tails. How could they do that, Bambi wondered. "Good morning, young prince," the upside-down babies said. Bambi turned away, amazed at all the different creatures that were in the woods. Even the ground in the forest could do astonishing things. A bump in the ground was moving, and it was moving toward Bambi. The bump came closer and closer, and then pop! A mole popped up out of his underground tunnel just in front of Bambi. "Good morning," said the busy mole to Bambi. He peeked up at the bright sky. Nice sunny day." Before Bambi could respond in any way, the mole dashed back down into his tunnel and dug away quickly. How did the mole do that? Bambi thought digging fast looked like fun. He wanted to move quickly too, and he tried to run and scamper. Instead, his long legs tangled on some reeds, and he tripped. His mother and the rabbit family found him lying on the ground. Curious as always, Thumper asks, "Did the young prince fall down?" "Is he hurt?" asked another rabbit. "No, he's all right," Bambi's mother told them. She knew that running wasn't always easy for a fawn. Running was very easy for Thumper, but it was not always easy for him to think before he spoke. "He doesn't walk very good, does he?" Thumper asked. "Thumper," scolded his mama, "what did your father tell you this morning?" His nose twitching uncomfortably, Thumper tried to remember. "If you can't say something nice," he said, "don't say anything at all." But that was a hard thing for a young talkative rabbit to do. "Come on, Bambi, get up," said his mother gently. "Try again." Bambi tried once more, and all the rabbits hopped around cheering for him. "Come on, get up, Bambi," they called, until he stood up at last. The rabbits giggled and led the way through the woods. As fast as he could, Bambi ran after them. There's Thumper and all his siblings. The young animals ran to a place where the ground sloped sharply. The rabbits had no trouble running down the slope, but it was too steep for Bambi. He couldn't walk down it on his legs, so he sat and slid all the way. The little fawn landed right in the middle of the rabbits. They giggled at him, and he smiled at them. Bambi was having fun playing with his new friends. Quickly, Thumper ran ahead and dashed into a hollow log. He thumped loudly on the log. Thump, 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 thump. Bambi and the other rabbits heard the sounds and found him. "I'm thumping," he told Bambi. "That's why they call me Thumper." His voice echoed through the hollow log. "That's why they call me Thumper." The echo startled him, and Thumper looked behind him to see if someone else was in the log, repeating everything he said. He didn't see anyone. "Thumper," he yelled into the log. "Thumper," the echo called back. Bambi and the rabbits laughed. There were many surprises for all of them in the woods today. As he played with the rabbits, Bambi felt himself get stronger. He ran farther and faster. When they came to a fallen tree trunk, the rabbits leapt over it easily. But Bambi didn't know how to leap high enough to follow them. "Come on," called Thumper, jumping on the log. "You can do it. Hop over it, like this," said Thumper, trying to show him the way. Bambi carefully watched Thumper hop. He was sure he could do that too. He moved back, took a running leap. But deer and rabbits aren't built alike. Bambi's front legs made it over the log, but his back legs did not. He was stuck in the middle. "You didn't hop far enough," said Thumper. Bambi looked around at his hind legs. They were still on the wrong side of the log. He wished he could hop as well as Thumper, but he couldn't with his long legs. He would have to find his own way. Bambi stretched one of his hind legs over the log. "That's it," Thumper called, cheering him on. "Now the other one." Bambi slipped his other leg over the log. He had made it across. Bambi was so proud that he skipped ahead with the rabbits. But then he tumbled and landed right on Thumper. "Gee whiz, what happened that time?" asked Thumper. Bambi didn't know. It seemed his legs still had a few surprises for him. The young animals stopped to rest under a tree. Over their heads, birds sang and flew from branch to branch, pecking at the hanging fruit. What were those singing creatures? Bambi wondered. He looked to his friend Thumper for an explanation. "Those are birds," said the little rabbit. "Brr," said Bambi. "Look, he's trying to talk," Thumper called to the others. "Brr," repeated Bambi. "He's trying to say bird," said another rabbit. Thumper wanted to help his friend. "Say bird," he told Bambi, wiggling his nose. Bambi tried to imitate his friend. "Brr," he said, wiggling his nose. "No, no," said Thumper, shaking his head. "Bird." The birds flew around Bambi's face. "Say bird," they chirped. So Bambi took a deep breath. "Bird," he shouted in such a long and strong voice that he blew some nearby birds away. The rabbits were so excited they ran to tell their mother and Bambi's mother what had happened. He talked, Thumper cried. "The young prince said bird," called another rabbit. Proud of himself, Bambi repeated his very first word again and again. "Bird, bird, bird, bird." A small golden creature danced in midair in front of Bambi's eyes. What little golden creature's that? Look. That one. You know what that one is, huh? Startled, Bambi watched as the dainty thing fluttered about his head. Delighted by its movements, Bambi chased the tiny flyer as it darted quickly ahead and danced in circles around him. It landed on Bambi's tail, as light as a feather. The bright-colored creature had flown in the air like a bird, so Bambi called to it, "Bird!" "No, that's not a bird," said Thumper. "That's a butterfly." "Butterfly?" Bambi whispered. He turned around to look at it again, but the butterfly had flown away. Bambi thought he had found it, and grinning, he leapt toward a patch of bright colors. "Butterfly!" he cried at something golden and dainty. Thumper laughed. No, that's a flower." "Flower?" repeated Bambi. "Uh-huh," said Thumper, sitting in the flowers and sniffing one. "It's pretty." "Pretty?" said Bambi, and he sniffed the flowers too. Suddenly, one of the flowers moved, and Bambi's nose touched the nose of a little skunk. "Flower?" called Bambi. "Me?" said the skunk in surprise. Thumper laughed and laughed. No, he cried. "That's not a flower. He's a little—" But the young skunk interrupted. "Oh, that's all right," he said. "He can call me Flower if he wants to." The little skunk giggled shyly. "I don't mind." Pretty flower," said Bambi. "Oh, gosh," said the skunk, and he giggled softly again. Bambi and Thumper ran off and played in the woods together until they heard a crash of thunder. Bold slashes of lightning lit the dark sky. A storm was coming. "I think I better go home now," said Thumper quickly, and he dashed off to find his family. Bambi found his mother, and they headed to their thicket, where they would be safe and dry. As she slept, the little fawn lay beside her, listening to the roaring skies. Tired from all his adventures, Bambi yawned, but he was still too curious to fall asleep right away. This was his first thunderstorm. Raindrops began falling, and they made soft, pattering sounds as they landed on the leaves. All through the woods, other animals ran and flew toward their homes. As fast as she could, a squirrel raced up her tree and hid in her hole. A clever mouse ran from mushroom to mushroom, trying to stay dry on the way back home. A mother bird flew to her nest and covered her babies with her warm wings. But the young birds were curious too, and they looked out at the rainy woods. Only the ducks and their ducklings enjoyed being out in the rain. It was a fine time for a duck to take a bath in the pond. But for most of the animals, the thunderstorm was noisy and frightening. Even Old Owl tried to cover his head with his wings and hide from the rumbling roars. Slowly, the storm clouds moved over the woods, and the lightning and thunder stopped. As the dark clouds passed, the sky turned pink and gold. The storm was over, and the birds began to sing again. In his quiet thicket, Bambi fell asleep at last, and his dreams were filled with his new friends and their adventures. Well, that ends our reading for today. I hope you'll come back and read chapter 3 with us next. I really like this book because all the little critters are running around doing funny things. Well, thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll come back. If you guys enjoyed reading that story, would you please click subscribe down below? We read new stories just like this one every day, and we would love to let you know when there's a new story to listen to.